You're getting on an airplane and you're walking onto the airplane with all of your best friends and family. And the captain of that airplane says, "Hey, there's a 10% chance that we're going to have a catastrophic failure and this plane will crash." Now, you're still on the gate and you can still deboard. Do you stay on the plane?
I don't think the plane would even have any passenger at all. Everybody who had
Yeah.
initially boarded would
Okay.
come off it. Nobody wants
Here's
to take a
now,
10% chance at their life.
So now that we've got that, we're on a spaceship right now. There is only a 10% chance that we were potentially damaging this. And if you look at the data, we're in the 10% threshold of having it be, if the oceans die, it's game over.
Welcome to the Etheria TechCast, where we bring you all things science, engineering, technology, and innovation. Today, we are joined by Charlie Sheppard, a leadership professor, systems thinker, and author of Get Off the Fence, with a multifaceted background that spans founding Bridge University, co-founding a biotech company, and consulting for Fortune 500 companies. Charlie brings a unique lens to leadership and global challenges. He specializes in decoding behavior, architecting culture, and applying systems thinking uh, to complex issues like climate change, framing it not as an environmental problem, but as the ultimate system failure requiring courageous leadership and actionable strategies. Charlie, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, so let's start at the beginning. Your work sits at a fascinating intersection. Leadership professor, biotech co-founder, and climate advocate. So, what thread connects these seemingly different roles for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I had to think about it myself because I think the first one was I believe that I'm infinitely curious about the world and how it works. And that curiosity has led me into the field of systems thinking. And so when I go on into the world, I got started with a computer science degree, and computer science is interesting is that those are systems, and you have to take those systems and figure out how you're going to create code that matters. And if you're going to write a program or develop something along those lines, you actually have to see the whole of the system and um, creating programs and working with, this is going to date me now, but I worked with Burroughs Corporation and Wang Laboratories. And that got me, I think, exposed to the systems methodology and theory that then became a real passion of mine and an interest. And I think that getting exposed through kind of human behavior and also systems thinking. Gregory Bateson created two of the hardest books I've ever read were Mind and Nature and Steps to an Ecology of Mind. They were so dense, but they really kind of formed the platform of what I think of as systems thinking. And then I just did a deep dive into it. And so that brought me into the world of leadership and organizational, actually architecting cultures for companies to unlock high performance. But I've always been an entrepreneur. So I've been involved with a variety of projects, whether it's my own software projects. I've built a personality assessment tool and a training reinforcement tool, which brings the kind of systems thinking for education and helping people learn. And then my mom passed away about the same age that I am right now through multiple myeloma. And I had the opportunity to work with biotech companies like Genentech. I still work with Roche and AstraZeneca and Vertex and Astellas and just this last week I was with AbbVie. And so all of these companies, when I'm working with them, you look at the systems that go into drug development, the actual research, the defining of a molecule, the preclinical work, the development work, the science of bringing a molecule and turning it into a medicine is a complex system of human behavior. And I had an opportunity through two colleagues of mine where we were able to find a molecule that was actually manufactured in Spain. And we were able to engineer what we think is going to make cancer survivable. We're in the stage of bringing it into the clinic. Uh, these are all systems thinking problems. Like, how do you even raising capital for a new startup is there's a system that's involved, and can you figure out what that system is, and then how do you develop engines and methodologies in order to make that more efficient?
Wow, that's indeed fascinating. So, you describe the climate crisis as the ultimate system failure. So, for our audience of engineers, scientists, and systems thinkers, how does this framework help us understand and address the problem differently?
Yeah. I so first off, my day job, I'm a professor, I teach leadership. And I was having a conversation with somebody where I felt like, one, I didn't have the knowledge to refute. They were a climate change denier. And I didn't have the knowledge or the science background to change that person's thinking. And I didn't have a vision. I felt powerless to make a difference. And I really had to sit there and go, okay, what are my superpowers? I understand language. I understand systems thinking. I understand the power of metaphor and communication. And so I decided to write a book, uh, trying to bring those concepts and ideas together. When I see people talking about climate change, they talk about the ice issue or the ice melting, or they talk about the forest fires and how hot the earth is getting. And so there's more forest fires happening, or they talk about the ocean becoming warmer and phytoplankton, but they're talking about it in individual little parts, right? They're not talking about it as a large system. They don't
Yeah,
talk about it as we put carbon into the atmosphere that warms the earth, which then shrinks the amount of ice, which creates this reflection difference, which then allows the earth to get warmer, which then is a system which then releases the methane gas confined in the permafrost, which then makes the forests hotter. The fires burn longer, which puts more carbon in the atmosphere. They didn't approach it like as an interlocking system, of which we've had stability for a long period of time, and we're now measuring uh, incidents of weather like it should be. Climate should be looked at in tens of thousands of years, and we're having to do it and adapt what the projections are every decade. And the problem is it's then this gets into systems thinking. We're becoming an accelerating feedback loop. So there's not. It would have been faster. One of the biggest risk factors that we're dealing with right now is the Earth would be warmer right now if the ocean didn't absorb the carbon. So when the ocean absorbs the carbon, it's great because it takes it out of the atmosphere, but it warms up the ocean. When we warm up the ocean, what most people don't realize, they think of the rainforest producing the oxygen. Most of our oxygen is produced by phytoplankton. And in some areas of the world, we're seeing a 50% reduction in phytoplankton because of the warming of the ocean. And as the ocean becomes more acidic, that's four of the five extinction level events. Those happened in geologic time, and we're doing it in generations. So we're at a risk where I feel like it's partly my job to help educate the world to have all 8 billion of us actually think of as climate as the number one issue that we have to deal with. And I don't know if you live near a low-lying area of the world, but if you look at the world's infrastructure, it was built on shipping and fresh water. So the world exists, like the planet's infrastructure lives near oceans and water sources. And these water sources are often tied to the ocean and are in lower levels. And so we're going to have an enormous cost to society if, say, the ice sheet over Greenland were to wash in. That's 24 feet. So I don't know where you live. That's 24 feet of ocean rise. Uh, it will materially affect the state of California, the state of Florida. Most of the infrastructure in the United States is on the coast, right? You take the East Coast and the West Coast, and so you're looking at a massive impact in our infrastructure.
Okay. So, how can technical professionals like engineers, developers, data scientists apply their skills to climate solutions within their own industries, even if they are not working in clean tech?
I think first and foremost, everybody needs to have a point of view about climate change. I use the analogy: there's 10% of the people that are climate change deniers, and there's 10% of the people that are advocates right now that are actively engaged in things. You've got this 80% in the middle. And that's why I've titled my book called Get Off the Fence. And it's for those 80 that know it's happening and they don't know what to do. And so I always say you get the politicians you deserve. And so the first and foremost is to make this step number one is, if you have the ability to vote for people that make this the number one issue. And because it actually is, it's going to affect everything going forward into the future. Number two, I do think that there's technology, and I don't care what it is that you are involved in. I'm looking into using sunlight to separate uh, hydrogen from oxygen in a way that would allow a clean, natural source of energy to come into existence that would be completely different than how you separate water, H2O, right now. And so that's just what I'm doing because I'm intrigued by it, and we've got a company that we're involved with that's actually exploring that. So I think you just have to find the thing. I know people have done cleaning up of the ocean, or even if you're doing something local, I think that you got to get involved and get active. And if you are doing those things, you're off the fence, right? And then the third thing is getting people and other people inspired to make the climate the number one issue. So what will happen is if we make climate the number one issue, our the political machines will actually represent who we are from a society standpoint. And so it's really important that you first get off the fence. Uh, when you get an opportunity to vote, find out who and how somebody represents the idea of climate. Find something that you can actually do that you're impassioned by to make a difference and a positive difference, even if it's just local, if it's recycling, whatever it is. It's the act of doing something. I just think that with the power needs of the world, we have more people living on the planet right now. We have a greater amount of power needs. I just think that we're going to need to find or deploy, whether it's solar or nuclear or anything else. The uh, We need to deploy technology, and I don't have an issue with petroleum. I I just think that if you're going to use petroleum, pay for removing the gas from the sky. The atmosphere is not your free sewer. So I don't have an issue. You want to fly in a private jet? You want to go somewhere? That's great. Pay to remove the carbon from the sky. Right now, I uh, I pay to have my garbage removed. I can actually hear the trucks out there today, right? I
Yeah.
pay to have fresh water brought to my house. I pay to have sewage removed from my house. So I'm paying for all of that. And the atmosphere is the exact same thing. It is not a free resource. And so if we're going to use petroleum products and we're going to burn something, pay to do it. It is not a free thing. And we had to do this with rivers. We've had to do this with lakes. We've had to do this, as we understand from science, there is a cost of doing certain things to the land. Well, just have that factor into the cost. So the true cost is being represented. So It's a fee for putting carbon into the atmosphere, as it should be, and that would be fair, that that fee is associated with the cost of doing anything, whether it's building a house, plowing a field, or burning fuel to the car. And what that will do, and by the way, this is why politicians have to be involved in doing it. What that will do is it'll put a cost that's accurate into our economic system that is and represents the true nature of what's actually occurring. And what that'll do is it'll foster a ton of new renewable engineering opportunities. I just think that there's an amazing amount of new technologies that'll get discovered. AI is extraordinary. What you can do from an engineering standpoint, we're using AI in our cancer molecule. So you got a thought partner right there. Let it kind of give you areas where you can figure out how inside of my environment and my situation can I make a positive contribution to the environment.
Fantastic. So let's talk about your book for a while. Get off the fence, yeah. What was your motivation and the vision behind you writing that book? And who were the target readers you had in mind when you were writing it?
Uh, I mean, I think when I hear stories like this, I get excited. I know of somebody who just saw my book for the first time and ordered 50 copies for their classroom, right? So it's a great easy read. I the whole idea is, and this is the systems thinking part, is there's a map that's in there that talks about the interlocking uh, nature of the environment. So you get to learn about systems thinking, and you also get to figure out, okay, what am I going to do to help mitigate this and to move forward in the world of climate? So I have children, and here's the curse of a systems thinker. You can actually project what's going to happen into the future. And even if there was a 10% chance of the climate crisis happening, it would be worth the investment that we're going to make in mitigating what could be disastrous for my grandchildren. The United States spent in 1990, they spent $1 trillion uh, in the buildup of the military industrial complex. This is Carl Sagan. He says, what could you buy for $1 trillion at that time? Everything. You could buy everything, every bit of manufacturing, production, and everything else. And so we in the United States built this amazing military machine because we were worried about Russia. That was the reason. So we went, okay, let's make an investment here for something that had a small chance of happening, and that is a mutually assured destruction through nuclear warfare. In 1990, we knew about climate. And what if we'd made that same $1 trillion investment in shifting everything to clean energy? Because this isn't, you think about mutually assured destruction, maybe there was a 2 or 3% chance. So maybe this helped us uh, mitigate the effects of that. Uh, but we're talking a greater than 10% chance of having disasters happen. Like if you look at the fires, at least in my country, when Paradise or the Palisades, just taking the Palisades, the billions of dollars of damage is more than an invading army. If the fire that swept through Hawaii, right? These destructive forces of nature now are accelerating at a rate that's just unimaginable. And the damage is being done by it huge. And these are not natural disasters. These are unnatural disasters. These are man-made disasters through the climate. We've put an instability in our systems where we have bigger heat waves and longer heat waves. Like when people are saying, why didn't the fire department put it out? We're talking about 100-mile-an-hour winds and fire tornadoes ripping through one of the wealthiest suburbs in the United States. Nothing anybody could do to stop it. So we we have a nuclear powered aircraft carrier that's not going to stop the oceans from rising. If we have another cruise missile, it's not going to stop the fires from getting warmer. And so, for me anyway, we have to get more people involved. And so I wrote the Get Off the Fence because I care about my kids. That's basically it. I love my children and I love children everywhere. You're younger, Ezekiel, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want you to inherit a world that's this one, right? I want for you to have a
Mm.
world that's this one.
Yeah, everybody loves the green
And
earth.
yeah, and so uh I want an environment where people can uh feel safe and secure. And my worry is the world's not going to feel safe and secure given the environmental risks that are coming down the pipeline. So I wrote Get Off the Fence because I had to put my voice. I thought that I could add something, and the something is systems thinking and the interlocking aspects of it. And I used a metaphor. So here's the engineering question. Let me ask you this question.
All right.
Okay, you're getting on an airplane and you're walking onto the airplane with all of your best friends and family, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're going to fly, say, to the United States. So you're going to go across the ocean, and the captain of that airplane says, "Hey, there's a 10% chance that we're going to have a catastrophic failure and this plane will crash." Now, you're still on the gate and you can still deboard. Do you stay on the plane? 10% chance it'll crash into the ocean and all your friends and family will die. But you could get off the plane at the gate.
Hmm.
What choice do you make? Do you get
Well,
off the plane or do you stay on the plane?
I don't think the plane would even have any passenger at all. Everybody who had
Yeah.
initially boarded would
Okay.
come off it.
Now,
Nobody wants
here's
to take a
now
10% chance at their life.
got it. So here's the good news is you could deplane. And you know why you could deplane? Because you have an atmosphere around you and you have gravity underneath you, right? So now I'm going to give you a different scenario. You're up in the International Space Station, which is our best technological advancement from society, even though it needs to have resupply. So it is not self-sustaining, but it's the best we have of being in a man-made spaceship is the International Space Station. Now imagine you're up there living with all of your friends and family, and somebody is actively sabotaging that atmosphere or that space station environment. Would you try and stop them?
Yeah, I sure would. I
So
mean, it's where I live
of
actually.
course. Okay. So uh, now that we've got that, we're on a spaceship right now. We're traveling. You and I together right now are traveling at 415,000 miles per hour. Or maybe no, it's 514,000. I got the numbers mixed up there. We're traveling really fast.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And we've got an atmosphere. We're actually in the sun's magnetic field. The Earth has its own magnetic field. So we're traveling through space at a high velocity, but we have gravity right now that's actually, we're engineered for it. We exchange the gases right now, and that brings kind of fuel to our bodies. Water. Water is delivered to us from the sky and will fall down where we can get it, out of the sky. It is the most amazing gift. We convert solar energy in trees every year. So I've got an apple tree right out there that converts solar energy into these amazing apples that I can eat and fuel my body. This is an amazing spaceship. So the question is, if there is only a 10% chance that we were potentially damaging this, and if you look at the data, we're in the 10% threshold of having it be, and this is the thing with systems thinking, you can get with feedback systems to a place where you don't recover, right? Because you're accelerating. It's like in natural systems, yes, sometimes people recover from heart attacks, but a lot of times they don't. And what happens is where is that tipping point? And for me, it's the oceans. If the oceans die, it's game over. It'll be 95% of terrestrial and aquatic life. you better be able to be wealthy enough to live in your underground bunker, because if we start losing that many people, I don't think the best characteristics of human nature are going to come out as everybody's homes and environment and way of living and food production starts to get destroyed.
Such an empathy-driven vision. That was a really interesting perspective you put us into. So, tell us, Mr. Charlie, what role does behavioral science play in bridging the gap between climate awareness and meaningful action, especially in organizations?
Interestingly, and I'll use the example, when a company does it right, AstraZeneca's in the healthcare industry, and I do a lot of leadership development there and coaching of their executives. CEO Pascal Sero, it goes, we're in the health business, so we can't, as an organization, be contributing to the climate crisis. So even as a supplier to them, I have to talk about my carbon usage and getting to carbon neutral or carbon positive. And so getting that mindset across more organizations, I think, is a really powerful message. And I believe that organizations, and if you really have the leadership, what I would call true leadership mindset, and you can drive that across an organization, organizations are going to do the right thing going forward. I one of the things about when we go into the new economy, one of the organizations that sometimes gets a bad reputation, but they're one of the best at doing it, is mining. If you think about it, I can't have a cell phone or a computer or this camera to talk to you if there isn't mining of the raw materials. And mining organizations understand that their right to mine something comes from the will of the people or government organizations, right? They don't, to get the license to do the mining, they have to have permission. And so to have permission, they have to be good stewards of the land. So they've had a sustainability organization for the last 40 years, right? They've actually had sustainability. How do we mine with zero net loss of biodiversity? And so we need metals. We need, I'm not somebody that says stop. I believe that if we can engineer into corporate culture this great leadership mindset, that organizations have an easier time enrolling people in doing the right behaviors as it relates to climate. And it's just good business, right? There's a business outcome that you can get by having, first and foremost, the climate aspect being a part of your DNA of any corporate culture.
That is interesting. In your view, what is the most underutilized tool or strategy for driving climate action into the business world today?
I don't think it's a business issue to solve at the business level. um, I applaud the businesses that actually have sustainability as part of their mandate, but it's not the structure of business. We have to change it at the political level.
Hmm.
And so it is getting everyone versus business involved. It's getting everyone to actually have the the vote is probably the most powerful tool that everybody has. So it's the tragedy of the commons, the classic economic scenario where you and I both share land that can handle two cows on it, and I've got a cow and you've got a cow, and then you go, oh, I want a little bit more, so you get a second cow. And because you got a second cow, I go, well, that's not very fair. So I now get a second cow. Now we got four cows on this land, and it destroys the land, and all four cows die, right? That's the tragedy of the commons. And so if we don't have a policy or a governance to it, and it's just like we were losing the ozone layer, and this was fluorocarbons and the Montreal Accords. Everybody got together, the government organizations, and they outlawed it. And they were able to implement that. And now we have a productive ozone layer. We saw the issue, we saw the problem, we came together and we solved it. So this is at the level of we need to come together societally to solve this. And one of the challenges of having a more divisive or nationalistic government systems coming into favor lately is that it's harder to work together with others. So that's number one. Uh, number two, it's more of a immediate. How can I get mine today? Is kind of the idea behind the nationalistic aspects of a political parties, and I really believe that we're gonna have to work together to solve this, and it will be something that, uh, governments will have to do. So that means we, for those of us that can elect our government officials, we have to be more active in what it is that we say that we need and we want, because this will be solved at the political level.
That's really insightful. So tell us, what leadership behavior has the biggest ripple effect when it comes to fostering a culture of sustainability and responsibility?
I think you have to have a compelling vision. There isn't anything I think of John Marshall, he's the CEO of the Potential Energy Coalition, and he's basically Earth's marketing agency. I just think that he comes up with these amazing messages. So he's a former ad man, somebody who understood strategy for advertising, and he's now applying it for planet Earth. He's kind of like Earth's marketing agency. But he tests messages and he gets a compelling message in place. And so I think the biggest thing that we can do is to enroll others. If there's a leadership behavior, is have a compelling vision for yourself about what you want to do around climate and do it. You know, my I used my power, which was, I know how to write and I know how to talk about systems thinking. I think that whatever it is, and John's advertising and messages, you got to find your thing. If you're an engineer, go develop a new way to separate hydrogen from oxygen, right? It's like if you're a nuclear engineer, go figure out small nuclear powered energy systems. If you're into battery technology, put effort into the kind of the science of breakthroughs from a technological standpoint. Don't forget that you've got to get other people involved, because if we don't have the political infrastructure, we don't actually have the infrastructure to reward people, right? We want to be making bets. If you look at cancer, uh, big bets in research funded by government has created incredible breakthroughs. And so when governments can do an enormous amount of good, and so we need to be getting the right people into our government systems to create a critical mass movement across all of society. Because guess what? The atmosphere doesn't see your border, right? If I put carbon into the atmosphere here, it'll show up there in Nigeria at some point in time, right? It doesn't see borders. And so
Hmm.
we're all affecting each other's environment. And so that's why it's a world problem and a human problem, and that's where people from Nigeria and people from the United States can connect, have a conversation about this, and hopefully your listeners will be inspired to go, okay, what can I do?
Wow, wow. That is a great response. Looking at the future, what gives you the most hope about our ability to address these interconnected challenges?
Because love always wins.
Hmm.
It's just like,
I think I've heard that line in a movie.
really, it's just, I think that if you love your children, if you love your planet, if you love your family, if you love your environment, if you love, right? Usually people who love, it's not exclusionary. And so we're at the critical mass standpoint of we don't actually have a wild animal population anymore. So of the land mass of both animals that feed humans and humans. So we're talking about animals on, not in the water, but on land. Animals that feed humans and humans together are 96% of all of the mammals on the earth. So
Wow.
we won, right? As far as conquering the earth, It's us, right? It's not the giraffe. It's not the baboon. It's not the elephant. It's not anything other than us. So that means we have a stewardship and a responsibility. So it's important for us to take that kind of accountability and responsibility for it. And, I think I really think the climate change movement has to be a movement of love. I love the planet. I love my family. I love the people.
That is indeed amazing. So tell us, Charlie, what does innovation mean to you, and how does it relate to your field? I mean, in the context of your work on the future of leadership and planetary health.
My great uncle worked for Walt Disney and actually was the voice. He wrote all the language for Mickey Mouse when Mickey Mouse was kind of like the most popular cartoon character in the world.
Yeah.
And so he had his front row seat for one of the best innovators of our time. And that was Walt Disney. And if you think about it, most people know about the theme parks, but he was the first one to do color movie. He introduced the whole idea of storyboards. There were so many innovations. He invented cameras, and at the last, he was actually doing societal engineering, right? He thought that the Walt Disney World with the geodesic dome and studying Buckminster Fuller and the monorails is, could people live and work together in an environment that was sustainable, right? And of high quality. So everybody said his superpower was innovation. And there's a simple thing that everybody could do every single day, and that is to spend 3 minutes innovating. And whatever it is you want to do in life, just sit there and use the word yes and so that you can just start off. And the other thing was volume and velocity. So just get a notebook. And if you want to be more innovative, grab these two tools, pen, paper, and just write down your ideas for what would make the world a better place, or what would make your world a better place, or what could you do? And just sit there and go, yes, and fill in a page. If you do that 3 minutes of every day, you're actually priming your own brain to see patterns that you may not have seen before. And so if you're going to innovate, go innovate. Like I sit there and I go, this is crazy. I was involved in the thing that I won the 100 Best Invention Award for was for a landmine removal sensor. I partnered with Lawrence Livermore Labs. Yet I'm an organizational development consultant, a leadership professor, but I'm in the biotech industry. I've written and created software programs. If you just keep going and say, "Hey, let me create something." I'm writing a children's book right now. It's an interesting thing that don't limit yourself. And the power of AI right now, and I love this line, everybody's an author, everybody's a programmer. Soon to be, everybody will be a director. You'll be able to direct your own movies and create your own. It's an extraordinary tool that we're just beginning to figure out, but it will unlock human creativity. I have a colleague of mine that wanted to learn a foreign language, and all of the tools didn't, what he knows about brain science, he let's just put it, he had an idea for learning languages that would have cost him, I remember him talking about it 10 years ago. It would have cost him probably $1 million to write that code through programmers and everything else. A year ago, he kind of scoped it out again. It would cost him $100,000 to do it. So tenfold improvement in programming. And over the last 2 weeks, he's actually built it himself using AI programming tools. So he has an idea. And I haven't seen it yet, but I know he is. He's a really smart guy. He became a programmer without being a programming language. Innovation is that's everything now. We're going to get robots to do a lot of menial tasks in the future. So your ability to give yourself the creative aptitude, 3 minutes a day, just put it into a book, write down your ideas, generate for yourself, and you will start to become, one, more curious, two, uh, you'll get to figure out things that can happen and what you can create.
Wow, that's fantastic. Just give what I would consider as a practical guide to being innovative. That is indeed interesting. So finally, tell us, where can our listeners go, find your book, Get Off the Fence, and learn more about your frameworks and actions?
Yeah. So I've got this. I want it to get out in the world. I think I have it for 99 US cents, so less than a dollar that you can buy it online digital. The
Oh,
print
wow.
version is a little bit more. So it's really inexpensive. You can get it on Amazon. I would read the book and I'd let it inspire you and to figuring out what you can take action on the environment. My leadership book is called Save Your Drama for Your Mama, where I contrast the difference between drama patterns and leadership patterns. And I've got more books coming out this year. So if you get on Amazon, you can find me on LinkedIn, Charlie Sheppard. Shepherd Partners is my corporate website. My university is worldbridgeu.com. So I'm out there. You can find me if you want.
Great. That's amazing. So, Charlie, it's been a really insightful and wonderful conversation with you. And I am totally excited to have you on the show today.
Fantastic, Ezekiel. Look forward to hearing the podcast when it comes out.